I call this car the Radical Coupe Fuji, but the world will soon know this beast as the 2015 Lexus RCF. I'm Danny Bopp, and it's been a long time coming, but we finally made it to the best coast. You're watching FL Detours, Los Angeles. It's been 15 years since Lexus has had a true sports coupe with non-convertible. And it's been 25 years since the brand itself even started with the LS. So why not celebrate with the RC, which is a great car, and the RCF. Oh, this car is amazing. Now here's a name you don't hear often, at least here in the States. Yasuhiko Yaguchi is the chief engineer for the F line for Lexus. This is Yaguchi's baby right here. In fact, he doesn't create a vehicle unless it's something that he, quote, wants to build and drive for himself. So the chassis of the RCF is much more rigid than the current ISF. That's because it's obviously tack welded to keep the chassis together, but also what's called laser screw welding, which is new for Lexus, and they're kind of testing the waters with this. And laser screw welding is actually done in between the tack welding. Now when I'm driving this car, it almost feels as if Yaguchi has taken notes from the ISF, improved and learned by developing the LFA, and then perfected it with the RCF. So the RCF is a mutt. It's a beautiful mutt. I say that because the platform is based on 3 existing Lexus models. The front stub is taken from the Lexus GS, the sports sedan. Where I'm sitting, or the center tub, is taken from the ISC, or the convertible Lexus, and in the rear, it's actually taken from the Lexus IS. Now for even more rigidity, only the RCF gets 5 additional braces underneath the platform, then a suspension brace in the front and a suspension brace in the back, hence why the back seats don't fold down. The seats are very comfortable. They wrap around your body the second that you sit in them. They're made with a single process molding system. And the outer layer is actually what's called Nulux. It's like leather, but it's not leather. The headrests are actually tilted towards the back seat ever so slightly. And I think what it's meant for is when you go to the track, you're wearing a helmet. Now I don't know this for sure, but that's my instinct. The seats look like Recaro or Sparco racing seats, but they're actually Lexus in-house seats. The steering wheel on the RCF is thicker than the RC and even the RCF Sport. Now the blue stitching and the carbon fiber interior trim is a really nice touch, and it gives an ode to the ISF. Now the RCF has a wide body kit with a heat dissipating hood and functional heat dissipating side fenders. If you start at the very front of this car, the grille is just spectacular to look at. There's a massive spindle grille, independent front daytime running lights, and then on the sides there are functional air intakes going to the brakes, the wheels, and the tires. And on the very outside of the bumper you've actually got an air intake to cool down the oil cooler for better engine performance. The 5-liter V8 in the RCF puts out 467 horsepower and 389 pound-feet of torque. The engineers reworked this 5-liter V8 to create the feeling of an infinite power coming from the engine. The transmission enhances this feeling with the torque converter, giving a true sports car feel. Now an additional option with the RCF, you've got what's known as the performance package, which means a bare carbon fiber roof and a bare carbon fiber active rear spoiler. Now this spoiler deploys at 50 miles per hour and then goes back into the deck lid at 25 miles an hour. Is it functional? I asked the chief engineers, they didn't say anything, so I highly doubt it is, but it looks awesome. Now the rear bumper is wider than the standard RC, and it has the stacked quad exhaust, which is subtle, but still really stunning looking. There are 3 wheel options on the RCF. All of them are BBS, These are the top trim level. They're 19-inch hand-polished 20-spoke wheels. Now here's an interesting fact. In 1990, when the LS400 first debuted from Lexus, the very first Lexus car, guess what size wheels it had? 15-inch wheels. Do you know what the size of the disc brakes are on the front of this car? 14.9 inches. 6-piston Brembo brakes in the front, 4-piston in the back. In addition, Lexus introduced what's called ASC, Active Sound Control. What that does is actually give the driver a more pleasing experience with the audio inside of the cabin of this car. At 3,000 RPMs, the engine becomes deeper with more of a growl. It's almost like demons coming out of the hood. And then at 6,000 RPMs, the pitch of the motor actually goes up. So the car weighs in at 3,958 pounds, but it'll take you from 0 to 60 in just 4.4 seconds. This is definitely a first for Lexus, and possibly the very first ever, a front-engine rear-wheel drive car with a torque vectoring differential. This is absolutely revolutionary for the exit of a turn because it distributes up to 70% on the outside wheel. This takes grip to a steroid level. The gauge cluster is very busy, and if you're not a car nerd like me, it's going to take you a while to figure it out. There's a lot of lights going on. There are 4 known driving modes with the Lexus RCF, but I'm going to tell you about all 6 of them. There's normal mode, which is the default mode for when you're driving. There's eco mode for when you want to save some fuel. Sport S mode indicates in white and red on the gauge cluster and enhances the throttle response. Sport S Plus mode changes the color of the gauge cluster to black and gives a yellow band around the RPM gauge. Now, it does everything that Sport S mode does, plus uses computer-controlled actuators to increase the adaptive variable suspension and reduce the electric power steering assist for better feedback to the driver. Now in both sport driving modes, Sport S and Sport S Plus, M mode is used. What that does is actually lock the torque converter in the transmission from gears 2 to 8, making the driver feel like they're driving a manual transmission. Now there is another mode. It's called Expert mode. When you are in Sport S Plus mode, if you hit the traction control off button, an Expert light illuminates on the gauge cluster. Now the Expert mode shuts down all computer-controlled assists the car has to offer, except the G sensor. The G sensor can sense when the car is completely sideways about to lose control. Then the system turns back on just enough to help you get under control. Now the Expert mode is only to be used by professional race car drivers on a racing course or professionals on a closed course. The final driving mode, which doesn't even have a name, can be accessed only in the Sport S Plus mode by holding down the traction control off button longer than 3 seconds. This mode is only to be used by the Lexus engineers for testing purposes. That warning is given because it disables every computer-controlled sensor the car has to offer. However, even in the unnamed mode, it is still impossible to do a straight line burnout with the RCF. And that was actually smart from the engineers because it saves the drivetrain from cracking in half, but it also saves you from looking stupid in front of your friends. I've had an awesome time driving the 2015 Lexus RCF. Leave a comment below, let us know how we did. My name is Danny Bopp, and you've been watching FL Detours, Los Angeles. Now ASC enhances it. Fucking hell! God damn it, this fucking sun!
Ow, we're living in the fast